Hey guys, just checking something there. I got about 30, I got about 16 minutes to go, 13 minutes to go, maybe 23 depending. But I thought I'd come on here and kind of talk about um, ships, if you will. Most importantly, how a lot of these other ships that I'm going to bring up relate to Sparity, Spike and Rarity. Because it's like I said in a live audio. What sense does it make if you're going? What sense does it make to ship Spike with Starlight or Applejack, and basically say that's more right and justified than shipping him with Rarity? I don't understand that. Well, it's because people have a right to their opinion. You know, if people feel that Spike's better off with an Applejack or Spike's better off with a Starlight, then that's their choice. But when when you look at the whole Rarity Spike dynamic, and I've mentioned this several times, this is something that's been going on since the start of the series. And for a while, it was going on. And then when you got to the midpoint of the series, which was basically, in my opinion, the second half of the third season, all the way up to the seventh season, and through the seventh season, with a few hints, acknowledgments, and even moments here and there, you know, the Rarity Spike ship kind of put, not, I wouldn't say put to the wayside, but it was kind of strayed away from. It basically simmered down for a bit. It was put on the back burner. That's the word I'm looking for. It wasn't totally put out of extinction, but it was basically put in a situation to where if they wanted to come back to it, they could. And like I said, that seemed to be between the second half of season 3 all the way up and through season 7, where, like I said, you had a few moments, references, and acknowledgments here and there. It wouldn't be until season 8 where it would be brought back to the forefront. Now, I've had one person come out and said it's because the writers that are writing for season 8 didn't know that the whole Sparity thing was basically put on the back burner for a while, hoping in their opinion to be forgotten. But that never happened. That didn't happen. And I don't think some of these writers are new. They didn't know about this whole Sparity thing being put to the back burner. I'm pretty sure they knew about it, and they saw something there that, as I've talked about before, exemplified what one of the main themes of season 8 was going to be about, and that's accepting people or accepting others for who and what they are. And probably, as I said, the biggest example that relates to that, as far as the series goes, and even before season 8 came into existence, with this being one of its themes, was Spike and Rarity, and I think that's why it was brought to the forefront. Because if you're going to go in a direction and you're going to basically have the moral of the season being, accepting those for who they are and what they are, what better example do you have than this Rarity Spike story arc or subplot that's been happening since almost episode 1, and probably the best example of that. And I can't blame the writers, whether you think they're new writers and they don't know what they're doing or they're not. I can't blame them for bringing Sparity back to the forefront. Hey, maybe they like it. Maybe they find it cute. Maybe they find it adorable. Maybe they figure, you know what? We've gotten this far, maybe they figure that, hey, we've gotten this far so far with getting away with just about anything under the radar that might go over the heads of young kids, but not adults. Why not go all the way? And I'm not saying that in a way to where you interpret that wrong. I'm just saying that if you've watched the show, you've noticed that there have been certain subtle moments here and there that they've gotten away with that they could be called out on. And you have to know and you have to know that's a true fact. But I think the other reason they wanted to go back to this, or bring it back, is because this was the season, of course, that Spike grew up. And Spike growing up, getting his wings, becoming somewhat of a young adult, probably was the best young adult, late teen, whatever you want to call him, was probably the best chance they had at getting Spike and Rarity, closer together. It's like I said, if they didn't want to go this route, they wouldn't have had Spike bring it up in Breakdown with the poem and the little Valentine or Hearts and Hoofs / Valentine's Day heart and poem he made for Rarity. They wouldn't have basically had similar situations happen to them in Meltdown, if not begin the episode with them together. And they wouldn't have had certain moments in season 8 where you have them standing next to each other. You have Rarity doing a one-hoof Heimlich on Spike to get the letter from Celestia out of his system. You wouldn't have had any of that happening if they didn't feel that there was something to this, that they could get something out of this. Because I think in the long run, these writers may have done some research and noticed that there have been other examples throughout history, television history, if you will, to where a situation like this works out in the end and everybody's happy. A good example, like I said, is Family Matters. In Family Matters, which ran for 9 seasons, when it first started, Laura didn't want nothing to do with Steve. Neither did the entire Winslow family. But over time, Steve started to grow on Laura, and she started to look at him as not, and she started to see that there was more to him than just his nerdy outlook, and realize, hey, I have a good friend here. I have someone that actually cares about me, even though I'd rather him be my friend. He does care about me and want to help me out. Slowly in time, like I said, Steve started to grow on Laura. And and that disdain turned to respect, and that respect turned into friendship. And through the 9 years, they went through a lot of bumps and curves. They went through a lot of bumps and curves to get to the moment that they had in season 9, which, as I pointed out, ironically, MLP FIM is heading into right now. And it wasn't until at least the end of season 8, going into season 9, that Laura's character started to realize that maybe Steve is the one. That maybe he is her knight in shining armor. Maybe he is her Prince Charming, despite his nerdy outlook or his nerdy facade or whatever. That she started to see that there was more to him than just how he looked, or just how his reputation at the time had preceded him. And what happened in season 9? In mid part of that season, Laura finally said something to Steve that he'd been wanting. They went to some kind of Pokapalooza deal, where she actually started to have a good time. And when Steve basically said, in one last effort, probably believing he's not going to get those 3 words said back to him, he said he loved her, and what happened? She said she loved him back, and she kissed him. The point that I'm getting at is it took a long time for them to build to that moment. To build to that moment where, in basically, I think, what was it, the fourth or third to last episode, basically in the final 4 episodes, Laura accepted a proposal from Steve to marry him. Because when Steve was willing to say, hey, if you want Stefan, that's fine. I'll just go, be with my parents in Russia and support them. and help them out. She realized she couldn't be without him, and that he was her true love. That right there, to me, folks, when I read what happened in Family Matters, although it's a different series entirely, and even though it ended 20 years ago, even though it came to an end 20 years ago, that moment, when you watch it in reruns, when you watch it on Hulu, or however you watch it, that moment still resides today with even today's shows. And like I said, there are a lot of other programs out there, animated, live action, that go through similar situations. They will tease certain ships. They will semi, if not fully, make certain ships official and canonized. They will acknowledge and reference certain ships. And whether you like it or not, and you don't have to, that's your choice, you do have to accept the fact that it's going to be a part of that show's history, no matter what. I mean, you may not have been a fan of Steve and Laura finally getting together, but you willingly accepted it. You may have counted the flaws of them not being together, but you accepted the fact that if that's the direction they wanted to go, fine. That's their choice. They have to live with it. You know, it's kind of like when, Disney themselves would tease certain ships. I mean, Disney themselves would tease ships in some of the Disney afternoon shows, like with Gummy Bears, they would tease Gusto and Sunny, Gruffy and Ursa, Gruffy and Ursula, Buddy and Sunny, Cubbi and Sunny, Calvin and Calla. They would tease all of them, and probably the one that got teased probably the most shipping-wise, despite how you look at it, was Cubbi and Sunny. I know that sounds strange, but it's true. It is true. That one got teased probably more so than anything. And you can say, well, they're looked at as brother and sister. That is true. I will give you that. But they're not blood related, and there are a portion of fans out there, maybe not a huge portion, but there is a decent number of fans out there that they basically would agree that if Gummy Bears got rebooted and they aged up Sunny and Cubbi, there is a chance those two would be together. There's no doubt about that. And again, Disney's not any stranger to this. They've done this with Rescue Rangers, where they would constantly tease a Dale and Gadget ship, or a Chip and Gadget ship, or even the characters with some new characters, like Dale with Foxglove Bat, Chip with Tammy the Squirrel, Gadget with Sparky the Lab Rat. They would do that. And they would constantly do this throughout all the shows. And whether you liked how a certain pairing happened, if it became somewhat canonized or officialized, Disney would run with it. They would. I mean, Bonkers, despite how you feel about that, kept the whole Bonkers and Bonkers D. Bobcat Fawn Deer dynamic going even after he was, from a continuity stance, kicked out of Wacky Toon Studios. They kept that thing going. Disney has been known to do this. I mean, heck, you may not agree with, let's say, fans teasing Goslin and Honker from Darkwing Duck getting together. But hey, it's happened. But hey, fans pretty much feel it's the best. That's basically what would have been, and had the show continued and aged up the characters, that would have probably been the direction they would have gone in. Heck, even Gargoyles, one of Disney's best series ever. Gargoyles did a ship that no one saw coming, and you may not agree with it, and I'm sure there isn't a lot of fans that do, but this ship was somewhat teased in the finale of the original run as a Disney afternoon take of Gargoyles. It was. And that was Broadway and Angela. And did you see Broadway and Angela getting together? Did you see that coming? No, you didn't. And even after it was revealed, or even after it was hinted at, and fans probably deduced that that was the direction they were going to go in, you know, that was, like I said, that was the direction they were going to go in. I'll tell you honestly, I guarantee you a lot of fans were not happy about it, because they were expecting, because it seemed to be set up this way, Brooklyn to end up with Angela, because he had fallen for this mutated girl that became some kind of mutated cat gargoyle girl or whatever, but she fell in love with Elisa's brother, who ended up getting mutated into a panther-like gargoyle character. And Brooklyn was willing to accept that. So you thought maybe Angela would be like I hate to say this, a constellation, right? No. Brooklyn ended up not having anybody, as far as I know, and Broadway was the one that ended up with Angela, because it was pretty much hinted at in the 3-part series finale of the original Gargoyles run on Disney Afternoon. It was pretty much hinted at there with his concern for Angela, and how he basically excitably, or if not positively, beamed about the library in the castle that they returned to. The point is, you don't have to agree with certain ships, and even if they become official, even if they become fully official, or fully canonized, or semi-official and semi-canonized, or even teased and acknowledged, you don't have to agree with it. But you do have to accept the fact that it's going to always be part of that show's history, or that franchise's history. And Spike and Rarity, and there are a lot of fans that do support it, you may not agree with them probably being, as I look at it right now, semi-official and semi-canonized as a item or as a couple. We'll probably know more in season 9. You may not agree with it, and that's your right, but you do have to accept that when it's all said and done, despite what direction they go in, that the whole Sparity ship is going to be, and always will be, a major part of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic's history. So, that's really all I have to say on it, guys. Let me know what you all think down below, but I just thought I'd get that off my chest. And that's all, and that's about it. So I hope you enjoyed this video in 1080p. So that's about it. I'm going to get back into work now, and I'll talk to y'all later.